How's it going, YouTube? Welcome back to your favorite aviation channel, and today we are doing the April 2024 update for Chicago O'Hare Terminal 5. This video is based around the 12:45 to 1:30 p.m. time frame, and so the flights shown today are based on that period. There's quite a few things to discuss in today's update, so without wasting any more time, let's get started. Okay, so there actually aren't any changes or improvements to showcase for the airport this time around, so we're just going to go ahead and get straight into the planes. First aircraft here is a United Express CRJ200 heading off to Lincoln, Nebraska as Flight 5728. Next up, we've got the SkyWest House Livery CRJ700 operating for American Eagle, making service out to Indianapolis as Flight 4832. Behind that is an American Eagle Embraer 145 operated by Piedmont Airlines going off to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And behind that is another American Eagle CRJ700. This is operated by SkyWest as well. It's going off to Louisville, Kentucky as Flight 4856. And behind that is a United 757-300. This aircraft is making service out to Baltimore today. I forgot the flight number and I forgot why exactly this aircraft is flying to Baltimore. I didn't do my research entirely. Definitely some sort of sports charter because it wasn't a regularly scheduled flight number. Behind that is a 737-700 going off to Washington Reagan or DCA. And behind that is an Embraer 175 for United Express going off to Duluth, Minnesota as Flight 3560. Alright, moving on to the terminal itself, we'll start over here at gate M4 with this Delta Connection CRJ900 pushing back for the return flight to Detroit as Flight 3738. At M6 is a 757-200 operating from and to Atlanta or Citrus Aviation's airport as Flight 1147. It's pretty crazy how most times during the day you'll more likely than not see a 757 from Delta here because they fly, I think, 6 to 7 flights a day, 757s between Atlanta and Chicago. Next at M7 is a Delta Connection Embraer 175 heading out to Boston as Flight 5767. And here's another look at gate M9 that I haven't been able to do any work with. I just have not had the time to update this at all. Hopefully by the next update I'll be able to fix this up, add the foils and the markings and everything. Until now it's just sitting here. At gate M10 is a Delta A220-300, just came in from Seattle as Flight 1256. And next door M11 is an Airbus A319 operating Flight 1297 to Salt Lake City. At M16 is the British Airways Boeing 787-10 that just came in from London Heathrow as Flight 295. It's going to head back out to Heathrow in about 3 hours as Flight 294. Some news on BA here in Chicago. They just started their newest flight, 299-298 from Heathrow. That's operated by the 787-10, and on some days it's the -9. This flight runs in the evening, and as of now, it's replacing the previous evening flight that was 297 and 296. I have heard that eventually BA plans to do thrice daily flights into Chicago, so this flight 299-298 would be that third daily flight. I'm not entirely sure when the 3 daily flights go into effect. More news about BA, some more exciting news I guess, is that they're actually moving all departures to Terminal 3 next month, so May 2024 British Airways departures will be going out of Terminal 3, which is of course American Airlines' terminal. So while the arrivals will still be here in Terminal 5, the flights will depart from Terminal 3, just like Iberia and Japan Airlines, and I have seen that a couple of the gates at Terminal 3 have been updated to accommodate the British Airways flights. Moving on to gate M17, we have a United 787-10, just came in from Rome Fiumicino as Flight 971. At M18 is a 767-300ER, just came in from Zurich, Switzerland as Flight 12. And next at M19, we have a Volaris A320neo that arrived from Querétaro, Mexico as Flight 7890. Its next flight will be out to León, Bajío as Flight 7731. Next up is a United 787-10 at M21 that's coming from Munich as Flight 952. And next door is a somewhat rare visitor to Chicago these days, the United 787-9 subbing in for the -10 on the Paris flight UA 986. So this did happen earlier in the month. I think one of the -10s was in maintenance or something, so there was like a 2 to 3 day stretch where this flight was operated by the 787-9. Otherwise, as you might know, United's long-haul routes from Chicago these days, they're primarily on the 787-10 with some flights on the 767 and 787-8. All right, next door is the gorgeous Lufthansa 747-8 in the retro livery that's here from Frankfurt as flight 430. Got this one a couple weeks ago, and this is actually not the new NG models version that came out a couple months ago. I unfortunately missed the boat on that one. This model is actually made by YY Wings, which is some random Chinese company that I had never heard about previously. The mold, regardless, it's fantastic. It's super awesome. The model also comes with a free stand, which is really nice to see, and it was a pretty good deal. It's like $55 or so I paid for this. I've been wanting to add the retro livery to the fleet for a really long time, so it was a perfect addition to add this past month. All right, next up is the star of today's update, the ITA Airways Airbus A330-200 here from Rome as flight 628. ITA began this route on April 7th, and they run about 6 weekly flights with mainly the A330-200. They do occasionally bring in the A330-900neo. The inaugural flight was actually on the 900neo, but most of the flights since then have been on the -200. And fun fact, you might note that the flight number is AZ628, which is actually the same flight number that Alitalia used to use back in the day when they were around flying to Chicago. That makes sense because ITA Airways, they are the successor to Alitalia, so they ended up picking up their old IATA code, which is of course AZ. And so this route is basically a resumption of Alitalia's seasonal service, though I think ITA is running this route year-round, but I could be wrong on that. Next up is the Cathay Pacific Airbus A350-1000 here from Hong Kong as flight 806, and it'll head back out to Hong Kong in about 2 hours as flight 801. So yeah, you might have noticed Cathay has changed the outbound flight number from 807 to 801. They've also upgauged service to Chicago from 3 times weekly to 5 times weekly, all on the A350-1000. Taxiing out here, we have a Southwest Boeing 737 MAX 8 going off to Nashville as flight 4855. And then back at the gates, we've got the Copa Airlines Boeing 737-800 here from Panama City as flight 228. It'll head back out to Panama City in about 3 hours as flight 229. Here's the Aeromexico 737-800 from Mexico City as flight 686. This flight is now a 737 MAX 9, so eventually I hope to add that one in the future. I don't know when, but it'd be nice to have that at some point. At M37, we've got the American 787-9 here from London Heathrow as flight 87. Like I have mentioned in the past, American's year-round long-haul network from Chicago, it's very small, like it's basically just London and not much else. But because it is April, so spring has begun, a bunch of the seasonal long-haul flights, they are coming back. So for example, this month, I believe Barcelona just recently resumed a couple days ago. And then more of American's European services, they will be coming back as the season progresses, spring and eventually summer, of course. Moving on to gate M38, we've got the Southwest 737-800 here from Dallas Love Field as flight 4903, making service onwards to Denver as flight 6030. And at M40, last plane of the update is a MAX 8 here from Phoenix as flight 1453, making service out to Dallas Love Field as flight 1422. And there we have it. That concludes this month's update for O'Hare Terminal 5. Now that we have ITA Airways, there are only 3 more airlines left to add for Terminal 5, and then I'll finally have the entire lineup. Of course, those are Austrian, Air Serbia, and Viva Aerobus. Hopefully, the plan is to have both Austrian and Air Serbia by next month's update, but Viva Aerobus is going to be a lot harder to get because those models are really hard to find. Other updates for O'Hare: Frontier recently began a couple of new routes this past month. Not new per se. Some of them are actually resumptions, but a couple of them are actually new flights. So Denver and Phoenix, I think, are resumptions, and then there's also Raleigh-Durham and Charlotte that are new routes altogether. They've got a couple more new routes coming out next month in May, so overall Frontier is going to be absolutely taking over Terminal 5. It's going to be really interesting to see how they deal with the gates, because of course there's only so many gates and Frontier is expanding super quickly, so I don't know how that's going to work out, but we'll wait and see. Next up, Emirates. As I'm sure you've heard, they had to cancel a bunch of flights last week from the time I'm making this video because of all the floods in Dubai, and the Chicago flights were no exception. They were really delayed or canceled a couple of days, but as of now they are fully restored back to the usual service. I am thinking of making a separate video on this scenario because it was actually a huge mess for Emirates, and that's actually an understatement, by the way, but we'll see if I actually get around to making that. And that does bring me to my next point, which is the huge noticeable drop in videos lately. It's just been a really busy past couple of weeks, but thankfully as of now, the semester is about 2 to 3 weeks from being over, so at this point I have a little bit more time, and I'll hopefully have a lot more time to make more videos more regularly as time goes forward into the summer. And that's all I have to say about that. So there we go. Thank you all so much for watching today. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. If I missed anything, if there's any details that you wanted me to cover that I didn't, leave me a comment below. Be happy to include that by the next update. With that being said, thank you all so much for watching. Take care, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.